I pushed open the front door of the house I'd bought with every drop of my sweat, my work boots leaving faint dust trails on the hardwood floor I'd paid to install. The sharp scent of Sarah's lavender candles hit me, stinging my nose like it always did. In the living room, Sarah, my daughter-in-law, sat on the plush gray sofa, her manicured nails tapping impatiently on her phone. James, my adopted son, lounged beside her, his tie loosened, his banker's suit crumpled from a long day. Neither of them looked up as I stepped inside, my toolbox clunking against the doorframe. My chest was tight, my throat dry, but I forced the words out. "I've got news," I said, my voice rough from exhaustion. "The company fired me today. Budget cuts. I'm out of work." Sarah's head snapped up, her green eyes narrowing like a predator spotting weakness. James's jaw clenched, his face darkening. The air turned heavy, the kind of stillness that warns of a coming storm. I stood there, waiting for something, anything, a word of concern, a question about how I was holding up. After all, I'd given James everything, a childhood without hunger, a college degree, this very house. But what came next wasn't gratitude. It was a knife to my heart. "You're kidding, right?" Sarah's voice cut through the silence, sharp as a blade. She tossed her phone onto the cushion, her blonde hair bouncing as she leaned forward. "You lost your job? So what's your plan, David?" "To sit here, eating our food, taking up space." Her words hit me like a slap, and I felt my breath catch. I opened my mouth to speak, but James jumped in, his voice low, cold. "She's right, Dad. We can't afford to support you. This house is already stretched with the mortgage, and Sarah's talking about having a kid. You've got to pull your weight." I stood frozen, my calloused hands clenching at my sides. Pull my weight. I'd carried this family for 25 years. I could still feel the ache in my bones from the double shifts I'd worked to pay for James's asthma treatments, the nights I'd sat at the kitchen table, hunched over bills, selling my '67 Mustang to cover his hospital stays. I'd given up my dream of opening a garage for classic cars, traded it for his future. And now, in the house I'd bought with my own blood, they were calling me a burden. "James," I said, my voice steady but trembling with hurt, "I'm not asking for handouts. I just need time to figure things out. I've always taken care of you." I thought. I trailed off, searching his face for the boy who used to cling to my leg, the boy who'd called me hero when I fixed his broken bike. But that boy was gone. James's eyes were hard, his mouth a thin line. "Thought what?" he snapped. "That you could just retire on our dime? Dad, be realistic. You're 62. You've got no pension. What's your plan? To live here for free while we pay for everything?" Sarah scoffed, crossing her arms. "Exactly. We're not a charity, David. My parents warned me about this. They said you'd drag us down with your blue-collar baggage." They were right. Her words burned, not just for their cruelty, but for the way they twisted my life into something shameful. Sarah's parents, with their perfect Naperville lawn and country club membership, had always looked down on me, the electrician who dirted their daughter's world. I'd swallowed their disdain for years, hoping James's success would prove them wrong. But now, seeing him nod along with Sarah, I realized my son had bought into their contempt. My throat tightened. But I kept my voice calm. "I bought this house," I said, my eyes locked on James. "Every cent came from me. I put it in your name because I trusted you, because I wanted you to have a good start. And now you're telling me I'm not welcome." Sarah rolled her eyes, her voice dripping with mockery. "Oh, please. That was years ago. This is our house now, legally. You don't get to play the martyr just because you made bad choices." Bad choices. The words echoed in my head, each one a fresh wound. I thought of the nights I'd gone hungry to buy James new shoes, the weekends I'd spent wiring houses while he played baseball, the dreams I'd buried to keep him alive. Bad choices? No. Every choice had been for him. But the boy I'd raised, the boy I'd loved like my own, was staring at me like I was nothing. "You should find work," James said, his tone final. "Maybe security or janitorial. There's a strip mall hiring night guards. You're still strong. You could do it for another 10 years. 10 years. The thought crushed me. I was 62, my knees creaking, my hands trembling from years of gripping tools. I'd given my prime to James, and now they expected me to grind myself to dust for a decade more, just to fund their lifestyle. Sarah leaned back, smirking. "Or, there's a senior home nearby. They hire old folks for kitchen work, room and board included. It'd be perfect for someone like you." Someone like you. The phrase was a punch, reducing me to a stereotype, the washed-up worker. Good for nothing but scrubbing floors. My vision blurred, not with tears but with a quiet, burning rage. I'd spent my life swallowing my pride, biting my tongue to keep the peace. But this was too much. "I'm your father," I said, my voice low, shaking with fury. "I raised you, James. I gave up everything for you. And this is how you repay me?" James's face flushed, his voice rising. "Repay you? Dad, you chose to adopt me. You chose to play the hero. If you hadn't, maybe I'd have grown up with a real family, not scraping by in some rundown apartment. Don't act like I owe you for your mistakes." The room went silent, his words crashing over me like a tidal wave. My heart pounded, a dull ache spreading through my chest. I remembered the first time I saw James, a scrawny 3-year-old in a Chicago orphanage, wheezing through a nebulizer, his brown eyes wide with fear. I'd been volunteering, still raw from losing my wife to cancer, when I met him. Something about his fragile frame, his quiet strength, had stirred my broken heart. I'd adopted him without a second thought, promising to give him a life worth living. I never told him the truth. His birth parents had left him in a hospital, that without me, he might have died alone. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night, had been to keep that promise. And now, he was throwing it back in my face, blaming me for a life I'd fought to save. Sarah stood, her voice slicing through the quiet. "Enough of this. David. If you're not going to contribute, you need to leave. We're not running a halfway house." She pointed to the door, her expression cold. James wouldn't meet my eyes, his gaze fixed on the floor. I looked at my son, searching for a flicker of guilt, of love, anything. But there was nothing. Just a man who saw me as deadweight. I grabbed my toolbox, its familiar weight grounding me. "Fine," I said, my voice steady now, cold as steel. "I'll go. But this isn't over." I turned and walked out, the door slamming behind me, the sound echoing like a gunshot. The Chicago night was cold, the wind biting my face, but James's words burned hotter. I'd given him my life, and he'd spit on it. As I walked down the street, a fire sparked inside me. I wasn't done fighting. I didn't know it yet, but fate was about to hand me a weapon, one that would turn their world upside down. I slammed my fist into the motel room's flimsy table, the cheap wood creaking under the blow as my phone buzzed again, its screen lighting up with an unknown Chicago number. The neon sign outside flickered, casting jagged shadows through the grimy curtains, but it was James's words from last night that haunted me, burning hotter than the November cold I trudged through to get here. "You chose to play the hero," he'd said, spitting on the life I'd built for him. I'd walked away from that house, my house, with nothing but my toolbox and a fire in my gut. Now, as the phone kept buzzing, I snatched it up, my voice sharp. "Who's this?" I barked, expecting Sarah's venom or James's weak excuses. "Mr. David Miller?" The voice was smooth, professional, like someone reading from a legal pad. "This is Margaret Hayes, attorney with Hayes and Associates. I represent Joseph Callahan's estate. Can we meet tomorrow? It's urgent." My breath caught, the name pulling me back. Joe Callahan, the old client who'd always slipped me a coffee and a story when I fixed his warehouse wiring, had passed last year. Why would his lawyer want me? "What's this about?" I asked, my fingers tightening around the phone. Margaret's tone softened. "Mr. Callahan left you something. I'd prefer to discuss it in person. 9 o'clock? Downtown?" I grunted in agreement, hung up, and tossed the phone onto the bed. My mind churned, but James's betrayal drowned out any curiosity. I collapsed onto the lumpy mattress, the springs groaning, and stared at the cracked ceiling, wondering how my son had become a stranger. The next morning, I sat in Margaret's sleek office, my flannel shirt and scuffed boots out of place against her polished desk. She slid a folder toward me, her eyes steady. "Mr. Callahan admired you," she said. "He told me how you rewired his place for free when he was struggling, never asking for a dime. He had no kids, no close family. So he left you this." She flipped open the folder, revealing a document. I scanned it, my heart stopping at the number, $5 million. My hands shook, the paper crinkling in my grip. "This isn't real," I whispered, my voice hoarse. "Joe was just a client." "Why me?" Margaret's lips curved slightly. "He said you deserved a second chance. The money's in a trust, ready for you now." $5 million. The words spun in my head. A lifeline I never saw coming. I could start over, buy a place, maybe even that garage I dreamed of, where I'd restore classic cars. But as the shock faded, a bitter truth sank in. If James and Sarah got wind of this, they'd slither back, their insults replaced with fake tears. I looked at Margaret, my voice firm. Nobody knows about this, right? Not my son. Nobody? She nodded. It's confidential unless you say otherwise. I tucked the document into my jacket. Keep it that way. I left the office, my boots echoing on the marble floor, my mind racing with possibilities and dangers. I didn't go back to the motel. I rented a small apartment in Lincoln Park, a bare-bones place with a rattling radiator and peeling paint. There, I started planning. I'd buy a penthouse, a garage, build a life that was mine. But first, I needed to cut James out. I sent him a text. I'm gone. Don't contact me. Then I blocked his number, my thumb lingering on the screen as if I could erase 25 years of sacrifice. For 2 weeks, I kept my head down, meeting with bankers, touring properties, tasting freedom for the first time in decades. I thought I'd left the drama behind. I was dead wrong. It started with a pounding on my apartment door one rainy evening. I yanked it open, and there was Sarah, her designer coat dripping, her makeup streaked. She shoved past me, her heels clicking on the linoleum. We need to talk, she snapped, her voice tight but shaky. I crossed my arms, my patience razor-thin. You've got 5 minutes. Speak. Sarah's eyes swept the room, her lip curling. This is where you're slumming it? Pathetic. Look, James is falling apart. He didn't mean what he said. You're his dad. You can't just abandon him. I laughed, cold and bitter. Abandon him? You two threw me out of my own house. You called me a burden. Told me to scrub floors to earn my keep. And now you're here because James is falling apart? What do you really want, Sarah? She faltered, then straightened, her voice turning syrupy, calculated. We messed up, okay? We were stressed. Come back. We'll figure it out. You can stay in the guest room, help with the baby when it comes. We're family. Her words were a lure, but I saw the trap. I stepped closer, my voice low, dangerous. You think I'm that gullible? You didn't come here because you care. You came because you're scared I won't bankroll your life anymore. Well, I'm done. You and James can survive without me. Sarah's face twisted, her mask slipping. You selfish old man, she hissed. We gave you a home, a purpose. Without us, you're nothing. You'll crawl back, broke and alone, and don't expect us to let you in. She stormed out, the door slamming so hard the walls shook. I stood there, my heart pounding, but a strange calm settled over me. Sarah's visit wasn't just an argument. It was proof I'd made the right choice. I poured a coffee, sat at the wobbly kitchen table, and opened my laptop. The realtor had sent listings. A penthouse by the Chicago River, a rundown garage in Wicker Park. I could almost smell the oil, hear the hum of a '69 Camaro's engine. But Sarah's words gnawed at me, a challenge I couldn't ignore. They thought I was nothing without them. I'd show them how wrong they were. The next day, I met Clara, my financial advisor, a sharp young woman who laid out my options with precision. With $5 million, you're set, she said, tapping a spreadsheet. Property, investments, a business. What's your goal? I leaned back, my eyes distant. A place that's mine. And a garage for classic cars, something I gave up long ago. But I need this quiet. My family can't know. Clara raised an eyebrow, but nodded. We'll use a trust structure. It'll hide your assets. They won't find a thing. By week's end, I'd signed for the penthouse, its glass walls a world away from the motel's grime. I also put a deposit on the garage, its brick walls promising a future I could build myself. For the first time in years, I felt alive, like the man I was before James became my everything. But the drama wasn't over. A letter slid under my door one night, no stamp, just my name and James's scrawl. I tore it open, my gut twisting. Dad, it read, I know you're hiding something. Sarah saw a bank statement in your toolbox when you left. You've got money, don't you? You owe us. That house. Our life. It's because of you. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. My blood ran cold. A bank statement? I'd left my toolbox behind, Joe's lawyer's card tucked inside. James and Sarah weren't just greedy. They were dangerous. I called Margaret immediately, my voice tight. James is on to me. He thinks I've got money. Can they get to it? Margaret's reply was calm. The trust is locked tight. They'd need a court order, and they've got nothing. But be careful, David. People like this don't give up. I hung up, my mind racing. James wasn't my son anymore. He was a threat, and if I wanted to protect this new life, I'd have to fight. Not with words, but with something sharper. I ripped open my apartment door, my heart hammering as a crumpled envelope fell to the floor. My name scrawled in James's jagged handwriting for the second time in a week. My fingers shook as I tore it apart, revealing a single Polaroid. My toolbox, its contents strewn across a table. Joe Callahan's lawyer's card circled in red ink. A note was taped to the back. I know your secret, Dad. Meet me tomorrow, or everyone knows. My blood turned to ice, my breath ragged. James wasn't just guessing about the money anymore. He'd been in my things, maybe even followed me, and now he was closing in like a shark smelling blood. I crushed the photo in my fist, my mind racing with fury and fear. I'd given him everything, and he was hunting me down for more. I paced the linoleum floor, my boots thudding in the quiet, the radiators hiss mocking my panic. I'd locked the $5 million in a trust, thought I'd covered my tracks, but that toolbox, left behind in my rush to escape, was my mistake. James's letter wasn't a bluff. He'd always been stubborn. But Sarah's greed had turned him ruthless. I could see them now, plotting to drag me through the mud, to twist my windfall into their jackpot. I couldn't let them unravel the life I was building. Not when I was so close to that penthouse, that garage, my freedom. I needed to outsmart them, to turn their game against them before they struck first. I called Margaret Hayes. My voice tight as I clutched the phone. James left another note, I said, my words spilling out. He's got a picture of your card, says he'll expose me. What do I do? Margaret's tone was calm, steadying. He can't touch the trust legally. It's bulletproof. But if he's threatening to go public, he's playing dirty. You can wait him out or hit back first. Show the world what he's doing. I stopped pacing, my jaw clenching. Wait him out? I'd spent years biting my tongue, taking James's slights, Sarah's insults, for his sake. No more. I'm done running, I said, my voice hard. He wants to threaten me? I'll bury him. Margaret's voice sharpened. Then get proof. Save his notes, his voicemails, anything. If he's extorting you, we can slap him with a restraining order. Maybe even a lawsuit. But stay sharp, David. He's your son. People will believe him unless you've got evidence. I hung up, my resolve like steel. I spent the morning digging through my phone, saving James's messages, Sarah's venomous text from weeks ago. I found a voicemail from her voice dripping with scorn. You're nothing without us, David. Remember that when you're rotting in some dive. Each word fueled my fire. This wasn't just about the money. It was about my dignity, the life I'd earned. But James was moving faster than I'd expected, and his next move hit like a sucker punch. My realtor, Clara, called that afternoon, her voice shaky. David, someone's been sniffing around your penthouse deal, asking about the trust. They called my office, claiming to be a journalist. I didn't bite, but they dropped James's name. My stomach dropped, my grip on the phone tightening. James wasn't just threatening. He was investigating, trying to crack open my secret. What did they want? I asked, my voice cold but trembling. Clara hesitated. They asked if you'd inherited money, if you were hiding it. I shut them down, but this feels coordinated. Watch yourself. I thanked her, my mind spinning. James wasn't alone. Sarah's family, with their Naperville connections, had the clout to dig, maybe even hire someone. The thought made my blood boil. I'd given James a future, and now they were treating me like a crook. Clawing for what was mine, I sat at my kitchen table, my coffee going cold, and opened my laptop. I created a burner email and drafted a message to a Chicago gossip blogger known for airing dirty laundry. My son's trying to extort me. I wrote, attaching James's latest note and the Polaroid. He thinks he can steal my inheritance. Here's the truth. My finger hovered over the send button, my heart pounding. This was a match to a powder keg, a move that could torch James's reputation. But he'd drawn first blood. I clicked send, a rush of fear and power surging through me. I wasn't just saving my money. I was reclaiming my life. That night, my phone buzzed with a voicemail. I braced myself for James, but it was Sarah's mother, Ellen, her voice like a blade. David, you're crossing a line. James told me everything. You're hiding millions, cutting your son out? You're a disgrace. Meet us tomorrow at our house, 7 sharp. We're ending this, or I'll make sure Chicago knows what a selfish bastard you are. The message cut off, leaving me staring at the phone, my hands shaking with rage. Ellen, with her country club cronies and local pull, wasn't bluffing. She'd smear me, paint me as the villain to save her daughter and James. But I saw through her game. This wasn't about family. It was about control. I leaned back, my mind racing. This wasn't just a fight for money anymore. It was a war for my story, my truth. James, Sarah, and Ellen thought they could corner me, force me back into the role of the obedient provider. They were wrong. I grabbed my jacket, my boots scuffing the floor as I headed out. Tomorrow, I'd walk into their ambush, but not as their prey. I'd bring proof, record every word, and turn their trap into their downfall. The blogger was just the beginning. By the time I was done, James would learn what it cost to betray the man who'd given him everything. I slammed a stack of printed messages onto Ellen's polished dining table, the thud silencing the clink of wine glasses and the smug chatter of her Naperville cronies. You thought you could bury me? I roared, my voice shaking with 25 years of pin-up rage. James choked on his wine, the glass slipping from his hand, while Sarah's fork clattered to her plate, her face ashen. Ellen, perched at the table's head in her silk dress, froze, her polished facade cracking like cheap glass. I'd walked into their ambush, their so-called family meeting, but I wasn't the broken father they expected. I'd come with evidence. My phone recording every word, ready to flip their trap and expose their lies to their own circle. I'd spent the day with Margaret, my lawyer, gathering every damning piece. James's threatening voicemails, Sarah's venomous texts, the Polaroid of my toolbox with its circled card. I'd even printed the blogger's draft post, set to go live tonight. Ellen had summoned me to her pristine home, thinking she could bully me into handing over the $5 million I'd inherited. Her guests, a gaggle of country club types, had smirked as I entered, whispering about my shady fortune. But when Ellen demanded I come clean, I decided it was time to burn their world down. You want the truth? I said, my voice raw, my eyes boring into James. Here it is. You took the house I paid for, the life I built, and called me a burden. Sarah, you told me to scrub floors to earn my keep. And Ellen, you think your gossip can scare me? I'm done being your doormat. I shoved the messages forward, each one a blade. These are your threats, your schemes. And this, I held up my phone, is catching every lie you tell tonight. You want to play this game? Let's see how your friends like the real you. Sarah lunged across the table, her nails clawing for my phone. You're lying, she screamed, her voice shrill, her eyes wild. You're just a nobody who got lucky. You can't do this. I yanked the phone back, my heart pounding but steady. Lucky. I earned that money, something you'll never know. Joe Callahan saw more in me than my own son ever did. James stood, his chair scraping, his face twisted with panic. Dad, stop. You're making a fool of yourself. Just give us what we deserve. And we'll forget all this. Deserve. My laugh was bitter, cutting through the room. I gave you a home, a future, my life. I sold my dreams to keep you breathing, James. And you repay me by stalking me, threatening me? You're not my son. You're a thief. The guests gasped, their whispers turning to shocked murmurs, their eyes darting between us. Ellen slammed her palm on the table, her voice icy. Enough. David, you're a disgrace. You adopt a boy, play the savior, then abandon him when he needs you? I'll make sure Chicago knows what a fraud you are. My blood boiled, but I didn't flinch. I pulled a USB drive from my pocket and tossed it onto the table, its clatter like a gunshot. Go ahead. Ellen, tell your story. But this has every voicemail, every text, every move you've made. I sent it to a blogger this morning. By midnight, it's online. You want to talk fraud? Let's talk about how you pushed James to extort me, how you planned to ruin me to save Sarah's lifestyle. Ellen's lips trembled, her face paling. You wouldn't, she whispered, her voice betraying her fear. James's eyes flicked to Sarah, then back to me, his voice breaking. Dad, please. I didn't mean it. We're family. Don't do this. I stepped closer, my voice low, final. Family? You stopped being family when you kicked me out. You chose greed over gratitude. Now you'll live with it. I turned to the guests, my gaze unflinching. You heard them. They thought they could break me, steal what's mine. But I'm not the one breaking. I pocketed my phone and headed for the door, their stunned silence heavy behind me. Sarah's scream cut through the air as I reached the foyer. You'll regret this, David. You'll die alone. You hear me? Alone. I paused, my hand on the doorknob, my heart racing. Better alone than chained to you, I said, my voice calm, cold. I stepped into the Chicago night, the air sharp against my skin, a strange mix of triumph and pain coursing through me. I'd faced their ambush and turned it against them, exposing their true selves to their own world. But I knew Ellen's reach, James's desperation. This wasn't the end. As I climbed into my truck, my phone buzzed with a text from the blogger. Post is live. It's blowing up. You good? My hand shook, the weight of my choice hitting me. The truth was out. James's threats, Sarah's cruelty, all laid bare for Chicago to see. By morning, they'd be the talk of the town, not me. I typed back, keep it going. I hit send, started the engine, and drove into the night. The city's pulse matching my own. I'd lit the fuse. Now I'd watch them burn. I turned the key in the ignition of a '69 Camaro, its engine roaring to life in the dim garage I'd bought with Joe's money. The sound drowning out the echoes of Ellen's screams and James's pleas from that Naperville showdown. My hands, still rough from years of wiring houses, gripped the wheel. And for the first time in decades, I felt free. The blogger's post had gone viral, exposing James and Sarah's greed to millions, their threats and lies plastered across Chicago's screens. I'd won. Not just the money, but my life back. Yet as I eased the car onto the street, my heart carried a quiet ache, not for the son I'd lost, but for the man I'd been. The one who thought love meant giving everything. Today, I was starting over, building something for me. The penthouse deal closed that morning. Its keys jangling in my pocket as I drove to Wicker Park, where my garage stood, its brick walls a promise of purpose. I'd spent weeks fixing it up, installing lifts, painting the walls a clean white. I wasn't just restoring cars. I was restoring myself. But closure wasn't simple. James's world had crumbled, his job gone, Sarah filing for divorce, Ellen's social circle shunning them. The city buzzed with their downfall, and though I'd lit the match, I needed to tie up one last thread. I pulled into a coffee shop lot, my phone buzzing with a text from Margaret, my lawyer. James wants to meet. Neutral ground. You decide. I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. Did I owe him anything? I typed back, fine. Here. Now. James arrived 20 minutes later. His suit replaced by a wrinkled hoodie, his eyes hollow. He slid into the booth across from me, his hands fidgeting. Dad, he started, his voice cracking. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Sarah pushed me. But I let her. I didn't see what you did for me. I leaned back, my coffee untouched, my voice steady. You didn't just not see it, James. You spit on it. You called me a burden. Threatened to ruin me. Why should I believe you now? His face crumpled, tears welling. I've lost everything. My job, my wife, my life. I know I don't deserve you, but I'm begging. Give me a chance to make it right. I studied him, the boy I'd raised, now a broken man. Part of me wanted to reach out, to pull him close like I did when he was small, wheezing through asthma attacks. But that part was buried under years of betrayal. You had chances, I said, my voice low, firm. Every day I gave you my all, and you threw it away. You don't get to walk back in because you're drowning. James's shoulders shook, his voice a whisper. I'm not asking for money. I just want my dad. My chest tightened, but I stood, my decision made. I'm not your dad anymore. You made that choice. Live with it. I walked out, his sobs fading behind me, each step lighter than the last. I drove to the lakefront. The Chicago skyline sharp against the winter sky, and parked near the water. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through messages from Clara, my realtor, about the garage's grand opening next month. I'd hired 2 local kids, eager to learn the trade, and planned to teach them, to give them the chance I never had. The ache for James lingered, but it was softer now, overshadowed by a truth I'd learned. Love doesn't mean losing yourself. I'd given too much for too long, and now I was building a life that was mine, not a sacrifice for someone else. That evening, I met Margaret for dinner, her sharp eyes softening as I told her about James. You did the right thing, she said, sipping her wine. You can't fix someone who broke your trust like that. I nodded, my voice quiet. I wanted to, you know. Even after everything, I wanted to save him. But I had to save myself first. She smiled, raising her glass. To new beginnings, David. I clinked my glass against hers, a weight lifting. To new beginnings. Weeks later, the garage opened, its bays filled with cars and customers, the air thick with oil and metal. I stood in the shop, my hands dirty, my heart full, watching the kids wrench on a Mustang, their laughter echoing. I'd sold the penthouse, its glass walls too cold for me, and bought a small house by Lake Michigan, its porch perfect for morning coffee. I wasn't rich in the way James had chased, but I was rich in peace, in purpose. The blog post had faded from the headlines, but its impact lingered. James and Sarah were shadows now, their names tied to greed, while I was just David, the guy fixing cars, living for himself. I thought of Joe Callahan sometimes, his trust in me the spark that changed everything. I'd never know why he chose me, but I honored him every day, building something real, something mine. As I locked up the garage one night, the stars bright above, I felt a quiet strength. I'd lost a son, but I'd found myself, and that was enough.